For 26 years, Zaniel's birthdays came and went like any other day. No one called. No one sent her a message. Not even her own family. No cake, no hugs, no gifts, just silence. She would sit alone, pretending it didn't hurt, pretending it didn't matter. But deep down, it always did. Every year, she waited. Every year, they forgot. Until now. This year was different. Her name was all over the news, Zaniel, the young woman who built a multi-million business from nothing. Her story went viral, and suddenly, everything changed. On the morning of her 27th birthday, she heard loud knocking at her mansion gate. She looked through her window, and there they were. Her family. Smiling. Waving. Holding balloons, cake, and gifts like they had always been there for her. Cousins she hadn't heard from in years. Aunts who once laughed at her dreams. Even her parents, who once told her she would never succeed. They all stood there like nothing ever happened. Singing, "Happy Birthday," like it was a happy memory they all shared. But Zaniel didn't move. She stayed inside, quiet, still, watching it all like a scene from a movie. She knew why they were really there, not for love, but for money. Not for her, but for what she had now. She smiled to herself, remembering every forgotten birthday, every lonely night. This time, she wasn't the girl they left behind. She was the woman they could never reach again. Outside the big mansion gates, they stood with balloons, cake boxes, and big fake smiles. Zaniel's family looked like they were celebrating the happiest birthday ever. They were laughing loudly, singing, "Happy Birthday," as if they truly cared. Some even danced a little, waving at the windows like they expected her to run out and hug them. But inside the house, Zaniel didn't move. She stood still, behind the long curtains and the dark tinted glass of her window. She could see them clearly, but they couldn't see her. In her hand, she held the TV remote, but more than that, she held something bigger, the truth. They looked like actors in a play. Everyone playing a part. Her aunt, who once called her a burden, now holding a cake with her name on it. Her cousins, who never answered her calls when she was struggling, now taking selfies in front of her gate, pretending to be close to her. Her mother was smiling like nothing ever happened. Her father even brought a gift bag, something he had never done in her entire life. But Zaniel knew what this was. They weren't here because they loved her. They were here because of her money, her success, her fame. She didn't feel angry. She felt powerful. For the first time, she wasn't the one outside begging for attention. She wasn't the forgotten girl anymore. Now, they were the ones waiting. They were the ones hoping to be noticed, to be welcomed in. But Zaniel stayed quiet. She didn't pull back the curtains. She didn't open the door. Her house was peaceful inside. Warm. Clean. Filled with everything she had built for herself. Every corner reminded her of the struggle, the pain, the nights she cried alone. And now, outside her door, were the very people who had left her during those hard times. They thought she had forgotten. They thought success had made her soft. But she remembered everything. Every insult. Every cold night. Every phone call that never came. She could hear them laughing louder, probably trying to make her feel guilty or tempted. But their voices sounded empty now. Like noise with no meaning. She turned away from the window and sat on the couch. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her security guard, "Should I open the gate?" She didn't reply. She didn't need to. They could stand there as long as they wanted. Zaniel had no intention of letting them in. She had let them in once, many years ago, when all she needed was love and support. And they slammed the door in her face. Now they were the ones locked out. And this time, she had the key, and the power, to keep it that way. As she sat there, calm and silent, she didn't feel sad. She didn't feel alone. She felt proud. Because staying behind those curtains wasn't weakness. It was strength. She had learned the hard way that not everyone who smiles at you loves you. And on this birthday, Zenil chose peace over performance. Truth over pretending. And herself. Over all of them. Zenil sat quietly on the couch, staring at nothing, but her mind was loud. The past had a way of coming back, especially on days like this. Her eyes slowly filled with tears as she remembered the night that changed everything, the night they threw her out of the house and into the cold. She was only 17. It was winter, and the wind was cruel. She didn't even have a jacket. Just a small bag with some clothes and a phone with 2% battery. But even worse than the cold was the way they looked at her that night, like she was nothing. Her brother was the first one to shout. "You're a disgrace," he said, pointing at her like she was dirt. "You don't do anything, you just sit around with your useless dreams." She had just come back from a job interview that didn't go well. She was tired, hungry, and broken. When she asked her mother if she could eat something, her mother slapped her hard across the face. No words. Just a slap. Zenil stood there in shock, holding her cheek, not knowing what she had done to deserve that. Then her father walked in. She thought maybe he would stop it. Maybe he would protect her. But instead, he looked at her with cold eyes and said, "You were never really my daughter anyway." That sentence cut deeper than anything else. It was like the floor under her feet disappeared. She felt lost. Unwanted. Like trash being thrown away. They dragged her bag out of the room and pushed her toward the door. "Leave," her mother shouted. "Go figure out your life somewhere else." And just like that, the door slammed behind her. Zenil stood outside, shaking. She had nowhere to go. No friends close by. No money. No food. The streetlight above flickered as she sat on the pavement, pulling her thin sweater tight around her. That night, she cried until her eyes were dry. She promised herself one thing: if she survived this, if she ever made it out of this pain, she would never forget. She would never go back. And she would never let them hurt her again. She slept at a bus stop that night, hiding from people and pretending she was just waiting for a ride. But no ride came. Only the cold, the silence, and the fear. She didn't know how she'd survive. But somehow, she did. She found small jobs. She met kind strangers. And she kept going. Day by day. Dream by dream. Tear by tear. Now, years later, as she sat in her beautiful home, warm and safe, she thought about that broken girl on the street. That girl who had nothing. And she smiled, not because it didn't hurt anymore, but because she had turned that pain into power. That night, they threw her out like she was worthless. But all they really did was push her toward the life they never believed she could have. They called her useless. But look at her now. When everyone else gave up on Zenil, one person believed in her. His name was Kwame. He met her when she was at her lowest, broke, tired, and still trying to find her place in the world. But he didn't see her as a failure. He didn't call her useless. He looked at her like she was already someone. He listened when she spoke. He held her hand when no one else would even look at her. Kwame became more than just a boyfriend, he became her safe space, her teacher, her biggest fan. He believed in her dreams even when she didn't fully believe in them herself. Kwame used to tell her, "You don't need anyone to approve of you. You already have what it takes." When she cried, he let her cry. But then he reminded her to wipe her tears and keep going. He helped her write her first business plan on old notebook paper. He stayed up late with her, researching, learning, planning. He gave her hope when the world gave her pain. Then, just when life started to look better, everything fell apart again. Kwame got sick. Very sick. It happened so fast that Zanil didn't even get time to prepare her heart. In just a few weeks, the love of her life was gone. Just like that. She didn't think she could survive the pain. Losing him felt worse than anything she had ever been through. But Kwame, even in his final days, was thinking about her. A week after his funeral, Zanil received a package with her name on it. Inside was a flash drive. On it, a video. It was Kwame, smiling, wearing his favorite shirt, sitting in their old room. His voice was calm but filled with love. He spoke directly to her. "If you're watching this," he said, "I'm not there anymore. But I need you to know something, you were never alone. And you're not alone now. You were born for greatness, Zanil. You're going to build something powerful. Don't stop. Even when it's hard. Even when they come back pretending to care. Remember, you've already won by surviving." Zanil couldn't stop crying while watching it. She saved that video. She kept it on her phone, her laptop, and in the cloud. She didn't show it to anyone. Not yet. It was her secret strength. The one thing that reminded her why she kept going when life got heavy. Kwame's words were like fire in her chest, warm, strong, and full of purpose. And today, as her so-called family stood outside her mansion gate pretending to love her, Zanil knew the moment had come. The moment Kwame had prepared her for. She picked up her phone and opened the saved video. Not to watch it alone this time, but to show the world who had truly been there for her. The man who believed in her more than anyone else ever did. The man who left her with more than love, he left her with a message, a mission, and a memory that no one could fake or steal. The knocking outside Zanil's house didn't stop. They were laughing louder now, still pretending, still hoping she would open the door. Her mother waved her hand toward the window. Her father looked annoyed but forced a smile. Her cousins were busy taking selfies in front of her mansion gate, already acting like they belonged. But Zanil didn't go to the door. Instead, she walked slowly to the living room table, picked up her phone, and opened the folder where the most important video in her life was saved. The one from Kwame, the only person who ever truly loved her. She took a deep breath. Her fingers didn't shake. Her heart didn't race. She was ready. With one tap, she hit send to all. Every number she had saved, the same people now standing outside, got the video. Seconds later, she heard a new kind of noise. Confused voices. Beeping phones. Silence falling in between the fake laughter. They were checking their messages. One by one, they were watching the video. And this wasn't just any video. This was the truth. On their screens, Kwame appeared, smiling, alive, and full of emotion. "If you're watching this," he began, then Zanil did it. "She made it. And you should know the truth." His voice was calm but firm. He talked about how his own family had abandoned him when he got sick, how they turned their backs on him when he needed them the most. But Zanil stayed. She fed him, cared for him, stayed up at night praying and working, even when she had nothing. "When everyone left me," he said, "Zanil stayed. She was my strength, my nurse, my only family." Then came the part that made them all freeze. Kwame explained how he had signed everything in Zanil's name. The house. The business. The shares. The patents. Every single part of his empire, left to her, the woman who never gave up on him. "This empire is hers," he said. "She built it with me. She earned every piece of it. And if you're only showing up now because of the headlines and money, shame on you." Outside, the fake birthday party died. No more singing. No more laughing. Some of them looked shocked. Others looked embarrassed. Zanil could see her mother staring at the ground. Her father slowly turned away, his pride now crushed by truth. Her brother looked like he wanted to disappear. No one could speak. No one could lie anymore. The truth had spoken, and it came straight from the man they could never erase. Inside the house, Zenil stood tall. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just felt peace. The truth was finally out in the open. Not in her voice, but in Kwame's. The man they couldn't ignore. The man who gave her the strength to rise. They came to knock on her door hoping for money, hoping to rewrite history. But now, all they had were their phones, and a truth they could never unsee. Outside Zenil's mansion, everything suddenly changed. Just minutes ago, there was laughter, loud singing, and the sound of fake celebration. They stood with bright balloons, carefully wrapped gift bags, and big, plastic smiles. But now, after watching the video from Kwame, a heavy silence covered everything like a thick blanket. One by one, they stopped talking. Stopped pretending. The phones in their hands, still glowing from the video, now felt like fire. No one looked at each other. No one smiled anymore. Her father, who always acted so proud and in control, looked away. His face was pale. His jaw was tight. He didn't say a word. Slowly, he turned his back to the gate, not even brave enough to face the house anymore. Her mother, who once slapped Zenil for asking for food, sat down right there on the pavement, holding her phone tightly like it would give her the answers. She looked lost, like a child in trouble, like she was finally seeing something she never wanted to see. Her hands trembled as she watched the last seconds of the video again. Zenil's brother, the one who called her useless and kicked her out of the house, stared at the ground, silent. He clenched the box of cake he brought, but now it felt meaningless. His lips were tight, his eyes full of regret. The cousins who always ignored Zenil's messages and laughed behind her back were now whispering to each other, unsure whether to leave or stay. Some of them were deleting the selfies they took at the gate, like they were trying to erase the proof of their own shame. The silence was louder than all their birthday songs. It echoed in their ears, filling the space where their fake joy used to be. Not a single person dared knock on the gate again. Not one hand reached for the buzzer. The truth had done its job. It cut through their lies, their greed, and their fake apologies. Everything they planned, the smiling photos, the sweet words, the hugs, it all melted under the weight of the video. The truth crushed everything. Inside, Zenil stood near the window, watching it all unfold. But she didn't feel angry. She didn't feel pity either. She just felt peace. This moment wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. They didn't change. They got caught. And finally, they had to face what she had always known, that their love had conditions. Their support had a price. And their smiles only appeared when there was something to gain. She watched as one by one, they began to walk away. Quiet. Slow. Some looking back. Some wiping their eyes. Others pretending like nothing happened. But deep down, they all knew, they lost her. Not because she was cruel, but because she finally saw them clearly. For years, they ignored her pain. Today, they had to sit with theirs. Zenil didn't open the door. She didn't need to. The truth had already spoken louder than she ever could. And now, there was nothing left to say. Zenil stood quietly behind the curtain, watching them from the window one last time. The same people who once left her to starve, who laughed at her dreams, who told her she'd never be anything, now stood outside her mansion, broken and silent. But she didn't feel the need to open the door. There was no point. They weren't here for her heart. They were here for her success. But now, after Kwame's video, they finally saw the truth. Not just the house, or the company, or the fame, they saw her. The real her. Not the girl they threw away. Not the girl who cried alone in the cold. But the woman who rose from the ashes and built a life with her own hands. She stepped away from the window, calm and full of quiet power. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to fight. The truth had already done the work. She walked through her warm, beautiful home, filled with everything she had once dreamed of. Her steps were steady. Her smile was soft. Because this time, she wasn't smiling to please anyone. She was smiling for herself. For the girl who never gave up. For the man who believed in her. For every moment she stayed strong when the world tried to break her. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to prove anything. They saw it now. All of it. She had become the queen of her own story. And she remembered everything.